Hi Geminis, welcome to your December 2018 Tarology 33 reading. We have a Celtic Cross spread in front of us. Normally that's a 10 card spread, but you guys got an extra card in a position of the challenge or obstacle and also in the influence of the environment. And then as usual we have an oracle card that we'll read at the end to help tie everything together. The first thing I noticed when I was laying the spread out is there's a lot of major arcana on the table, so could be a karmic month in some regards, and it wouldn't surprise me too much as far as Jupiter, which rules Sagittarius naturally, is back in Sagittarius, and that's your opposite sign, so there could be a lot of things going on there. When a planet like Jupiter gets into a house, it expands what's going on in that house. So this could just be dealing with partnerships of any kind, romantic relationships, even business partnerships. You could just see expansion and growth in those areas. So that could be what all of these major arcana cards are pointing to. And then also we have the fact that you have a full moon. I'm recording this in the middle of November, so there will be a full moon towards the end of November in your sign as well. So that could also put some of this into play. But we'll see as we go along. Let's take a look at the first card in the main situation. We have the Emperor card. So this is actually my card for Aries. So some of you could certainly be dealing with an Aries. This could just be you taking on this energy as well, which is to say you're feeling in control right now. You're ready to get up and go, make things happen. That's certainly a possibility. Mars will be moving into, Mars rules Aries naturally too. So whenever I see a card that represents a sign, I look at what's going on in that sign and also where the ruler of that sign is in relation to your chart. So as Geminis, we're going to have Mars in our 10th house. So that could be social status, career, and then Aries itself actually has Uranus back in your 11th house. It just moved out of the sign of Taurus recently, back into Aries, where it'll just be for a short bit. Then it's going to go back into Taurus next year, where it'll stay for years. So maybe it's that energy coming into play that really has things moving in that area. But like I said, it could be career, it could just be any area of life where you're just feeling in control and ready to make things happen. In the challenge or obstacle position, we had two cards, and both the major arcana at that. So again, with that thing, like I was saying, a lot of major arcana on the table. We have the Death card, and we have the World card. So to me, the Death card, is not very rarely about an actual death, but it's usually about ending one cycle to begin another. And then the World is about completing a cycle. But when we look at these two cards together in this way, this could represent a Scorpio, because the Death card is the major arcana card for Scorpio. So this could just be saying that, you're being challenged by a Scorpio, perhaps. Maybe that's the issue, trying to bring something to completion. Or it could just be saying that, the challenge is for you to work with the Scorpio towards completing something, transforming something. Maybe if you guys have had a contentious type of connection, for example, work on repairing that for a successful completion. Because this to me represents Saturn to an extent, but more so the North Node, and the North Node is often about, soul growth and karmic lessons that you need to learn in life to move forward. So if it is an actual Scorpio, that could be the key, is, saying that maybe you're being held back from getting in this position until you resolve this situation, or maybe it's to say, you might be not forced, but it might be best for you to step down from that position in order to work with this person. Again, if it is, like you guys are just butting heads in some way, shape, or form. But another way this could be playing out too is, again, going back to what I said about the planetary things. This could just be pointing to the fact that we've had Venus retrograde in Scorpio, then it went into Libra. It's going to go back into Scorpio. So maybe that's what's it's saying, that things that started taking place when Venus first went retrograde in Scorpio as it goes back through those same degrees through the month of December. Maybe that'll get you the completion that you're looking for. Um, and I mean, if you look at this card, when we say completion, it definitely looks like a celebratory type of completion as well. So I think you'd be happy with the results in that regard. So, when we think death, we think, oh, something's over. Not necessarily, as far as it could just be an improvement of things. Maybe again, like I said, if you've been in a bit of conflict with someone, you could take it to another level and actually repair it. Because the reason why I say that especially is at the foundation position, we have the Judgment card. So the Judgment card, you might hear of Scorpio referred to as the sign of death and rebirth, and or the 8th house, which is the house that they naturally rule. And so obviously this is a clear-cut Scorpio card and the Death card, but then I personally view this as the other Scorpio Major Arcana card, and it represents the rebirth side of that. So on a simpler level, this could just be saying that there is a rebirth between you and a Scorpio, and maybe it was meant to be reborn with that World card underneath it. Maybe it is something that you still need to work on and complete with that person. And again, this could also just be saying, like I was saying with the planetary energies at play, Mercury, which is your ruler, is actually going to go retrograde into Scorpio as well for a bit and then come back into your opposite sign. So there's definitely a huge Scorpio theme in that regard too. Like I said, with the Venus retrograde energy, it's coming back through there, and then Mercury will go in there briefly and then come back into Sagittarius. So maybe that's a timeline thing more than anything, saying that that's when something will come back around. That could certainly be the case. With the 5 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck, maybe they left your life abruptly, or maybe you did. Maybe one or both of you were feeling left out in the cold in the connection. Maybe communication was stunted in some kind of way. And again, like I said, if it's not actually a Scorpio person, think back to what was going on when Venus first started its retrograde in Scorpio, or even just what was going on while the Sun was in Scorpio. That's another way you could look at it as well. In the past position, we have the 9 of Wands. So to me, this is someone who's on the defensive. Usually, they've taken some lumps. If you look at the artwork, he has what looks like a bandage on his head, right? And he has a pretty distrustful look on his face too. Like he's waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like he just feels like, okay, obviously it's not over, right? They're just waiting for the next thing to go wrong. So this could just be how you're feeling, or were in the past anyway. Feeling on guard and distrustful towards someone or something. Another way that I could see this playing out looking at this card is, the Emperor being a major arcana card for the fire signs, specifically Aries. And then this card here being also a fire energy. This is Sagittarius energy though. This could just be saying lightening your load, because maybe as the Emperor, this was saying that you were, obsessively in control in a way. You had to control everything, so you ended up taking on too much. And maybe in taking on too much, you ended up feeling this way. And with the 6 of Wands in the present position, it could be saying that maybe the lesson for you was to lighten your load. You know what I mean? If we think about reducing from 9 of Wands, where he looks very uncomfortable, this card we have 6 of Wands. The person looks a lot more comfortable. Looks like they're being celebrated at that. And I think you guys had a message like that recently too, about taking on too much. It might have been October actually, which would fit that theme with the Venus retrograde stuff. So maybe you guys were taking on too much, trying to control everything. And the lesson here with the Venus retrograde was, you can't control everything. Things are going to happen how they're going to happen. The more you push yourself, it's good to have initiative and take initiative, but sometimes if you feel like you're banging your head up against the wall, what are you going to end up with, right? You can end up with a bandage on your head, and you're going to feel like it's going to never stop. That cycle's never going to stop. So Maybe it's saying lighten your load. Let's say if this was any kind of relationship dynamic, or maybe with a Scorpio or anyone for that matter. Um, Maybe you felt like you were taking on too much of the load in the connection. So maybe it's saying, lighten the load and see what happens, right? Let the other person pick up the slack a little bit. And speaking of which, I think Aries had a very similar message in their reading as well. So if you guys have, let's say, your Gemini Sun, but your Aries rising, or even like Aries Venus, you might want to check out that reading too, because that was a similar message about, not taking on too much and letting other people pick up some of the slack for you. As Geminis and Aries, that's one parallel you guys have. You both move so quickly that to you it might come naturally, so you might feel like, oh, I'm stuck taking on all this work, but maybe just the other people in your environment aren't as quick to react in that regard, so maybe they might want to take on some of the work as well, but you just move so quickly with it that it ends up creating a dynamic where they might get comfortable with that for one, or just might feel like they don't even have the chance to step in and help. So maybe the lesson there is to take a step back in some regard, especially because in the near future position we have the Hermit card. So this is actually my major arcana card for Virgo, and then the artwork speaks for itself in a certain regard too. It's a very inward looking type card, right? The person's reflecting quietly, taking some alone time, looking at things from a higher perspective, I say too, because to me, some people refer to this as a cave or whatever, but I almost see this like a guy on a mountaintop, and it's like, well, why would you need that lantern up there, if you're all alone up there? But and then if I look at the artwork, and if we look at where his head is looking down, it's right towards the Judgment card. So maybe you're looking back on that connection, and maybe it's because someone came back into your life, or again with the Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde energies that we've been dealing with. Maybe you're just looking down on it and reflecting back on the connection and seeing, would you want to reconnect if you were given a chance? Maybe that's what you're doing. But, given that we have a position of victory here, this is referred to as the victory card a lot. And the Emperor here, which again is a card of power, I feel like you still might be in control in a certain extent, to a certain extent rather, but I feel like the lesson here is to let go of some of the load, whether it's the control, like I said, letting someone come towards you to a certain extent, as opposed to always being the one charging forward. Maybe that's what the dynamic needs, to settle in. All right. In the position of your influence on the situation, we have the Eight of Wands. This is actually another Sagittarius card as well, which it represents the first 10 degrees of Sagittarius. So maybe that last week in November. It's just saying that you were doing a lot of communicating during that time. Or maybe communicating during that time to put things in place for this month, since this is a reading for December. But yeah, this could just be saying you were traveling a lot during that time. It doesn't have to be anything too major. But this definitely represents a lot of communications, a lot of messages back and forth. With this being your influence, maybe someone does reach out to you, right? Given that the Judgment card is here, the Death with the World card, maybe someone reaches out to you, extends some kind of an offer, you think it over, take some time to think it over, and then maybe you decide, all right, let me reach out to the person, right? That's certainly a possibility there. This could just be saying you have a lot of offers coming in as well, though. With the Six of Wands, that could also mean that you're in the spotlight in some way. So, again, with Jupiter in your opposite sign, it's certainly a possibility that you could receive, just a lot of offers in the love area of your life. You did have Venus retrograde back into your 5th house from Scorpio. Your 5th house is Libra. And then it started moving forward there, so that might have brought some more attention your way, too, as far as love connections go. But like I said, 7th house too, with Jupiter and then the Sun being there and then Mercury going back in there. There's going to be a lot going on in Sagittarius, and your opposite sign isn't just about love relationships. It's more or less most partnerships you can think of. So business partnerships, Um, just something, that you could really build on, as opposed to just a more of a frivolous connection. All right, in the position of the environment's influence on a situation, we had two cards here. We have the Knight of Swords, and we have the Knight of Cups. So there's a few different ways that this could be playing out. One could be saying that you could be dealing with another Gemini or any air sign, but this is usually my court card that represents Gemini. And then you might also be dealing with a water sign, which would be, this is usually my Pisces card, but it could be any water sign, especially with the Scorpio type vibe there. It could certainly be a Scorpio, could be a Cancer as well. Doesn't have to be anyone specifically from that sign. But another way this could be playing out too, since the Judgment card is in the foundation, which is a pretty prominent role for the spread, this could just be saying someone is coming back in, rushing back in and making a love offer toward you. That's certainly a possibility. If it's not two different people altogether. Because, they do have their backs to each other, which could make you think that it is two different people. But it could just be saying, if we want to look at it as far as how they're looking, they're coming right towards this direction, right? The main part of the spread here. And this would be more about communications. And then the Knight of Cups is moving forward, right? So maybe they come back from the past, right? And make an offer to you to move forward. And it's, even if it's not a love offer, it might be a more open-hearted offer. So, like I said, if it was just someone, it doesn't have to be like a love relationship thing. Maybe it's just a friendship where you guys were butting heads a lot, and maybe you thought it was over, and maybe that's why you had that Nine of Wands energy. You were feeling, a little bit hurt by whatever happened between the two of you. With these energies here saying that, the connection isn't necessarily over, because we have the World card with the Death card saying that you guys still have to complete something together, whether that means, this is a person you'd spend your whole life with, or just someone that you have a karmic connection with where you still have some lessons to learn together. It could play out either way. But that could be what that's saying there, that Knight rushing in to make an offer to you to move forward. And then it could just be saying, if not in a love relationship sense, just saying, hey, I know we've been butting heads lately, let's try to make amends. So that could be what's going on there. Because like we said, with the Five of Pentacles down at the bottom of the deck and this Nine of Wands here, looks like something went off the rails at some point. But at the same time, I feel that this is mostly past influence, because the things in the present and moving forward certainly seem a lot more positive. So, and again, with Venus retrograde, a lot of people had breakups with relationships or miscommunications, and were reflecting on past relationships. Some people had people from their past physically coming back. Others just had them on their mind to get closure, by thinking through where things went wrong, where they could grow and learn from that, so on and so forth. And then Mercury again starting retrograde in your opposite sign. Around towards the end of November, then going back into Sagittarius towards the middle of December. That too could bring those types of things where, a past lover might come back around, someone you had a falling out with in any area of life come back around, and you might make amends. So the energy there definitely supports that message astrologically anyway. In the hopes or fears position, we have the Two of Pentacles. So, like I always say, with the hopes or fears position, this is the one card that might not directly point to someone tangibly playing out during the month, but it's just something more that's on your mind. And, I would say this is probably more of a fear card than a hope card, and it could be that, you're fearing making a decision. So let's say it is two different people. Maybe it's an air sign coming back and a water sign, or maybe the air sign's the one from the past since they're looking at the past position, and then the water sign's a brand new connection. Given that they're looking forward towards the future, maybe that's what's going on there. Maybe you're trying to decide between those two people. That's certainly a possibility, and maybe that's what this reflection was all about. But yeah, with that, I just feel like that's probably a fear that you have, trying to decide between the two, making the right decision, you know? It's like not being ready to let either one go, but you're trying to decide which direction you want to go in. And then in the outcome position, we have the Devil. So this is actually my major arcana card for Capricorn. So on the simplest sense, this could just be saying that, you know, it's pointing to the fact that the sun will be moving into the sign of Capricorn at the end of the month. At some point, it's going to meet up with Saturn there as well, so, which is also in Capricorn right now. Could be pointing to that, but then this is also your 8th house as well. So this could just be saying, you know, maybe whatever was going on here with you guys, you repair it. And this could be heavy sexual energy, you know what I mean? You could see that in the artwork. So maybe that's what that's pointing to, you know, between the things that play on in the spread itself, and then, like I said, all of the energy that will be in your 8th house, which is the house of sex. That could certainly be what's going on. For some of you, this could just be pointing to a karmic connection too, like I said, you know, where sometimes people have karmic connections that you need for your soul growth, and, you know, those are those types of connections that feel hard to pull away from. So that's why you see those 2 chains. You know, they each have a chain around them. You might try to pull away from those connections, but somehow you keep getting drawn back into them. It's usually because there's a lesson to be learned. And like I said, they're not all bad connections either. Some of them might last, but just saying that you guys have to learn a lesson together, whatever that lesson is that you do need to be together, right? Or whatever the case may be. But that's the vibe that I'm getting with this card. And but this could also, again, be another warning as well. Because remember I said if this was career, maybe this is you taking on too much and then feeling that way. And then with the 8 of Wands here, this could be saying that maybe you pare yourself down for a bit, take a little time off, but then you go right back to it, you know, right back on to trying to take on too many things at once. And that would be a warning there to watch out for that, because if we look at the only ever card really with that black background, it would be the 5 of Pentacles. So this is saying, you know, try not to wear yourself out because you could end up sick. Maybe that's the connection that's going on there. And you know how it goes. I think I've said this to a couple other signs too. December, everyone's busy. No matter what culture you're in, there's some kind of holidays people celebrate in December, no matter what culture you're from, I believe. And, you know, and just being in the U.S., for those of you in the U.S., you know how hectic things get around this time of year. People end up usually stressing themselves out way more than they need to for what's supposed to be a time of celebration and connecting with family and friends. It just goes off the rail where people drive themselves crazy trying to get everything done, and ends up being more trouble than it's worth for a lot of people sometimes. So it could just be a warning there to just be careful and not burn yourself out. Alright, we'll look at the Oracle card, see if this helps clear up anything that we have on the spread there. And it's TikTok. That's the artwork there. It's like, looks like someone trying to grasp at a clock. It might be like trying to float away from them. And then the number 30, if that has any significance for you. Alright, let's take a look at the messages from the book. I might have only seen this card once or twice, so I really don't remember what the main messages are for this one. Okay, it says essential meanings: timelessness, divine timing, immeasurable time. The Oracle's message: when humans created time, everything changed and contracted. People have come to look at life in a linear way, imagining that the past is behind them and the future is ahead of them. But what if it wasn't true at all? What if everything, creativity, beauty, chaos, and order, were happening now in a glorious timelessness? You have all the time in the world to co-create the life you desire, so release your agenda. Let go of your need to shape each moment to your expectations, knowing that what is yours will never be withheld from you. Miracles are right here now, and always show up when you need them, right on time. So, I mean, that message to me spoke pretty clearly about what we were saying with the Emperor card. Let go of your need to shape each moment to your expectation. That's what I was saying there. On the downside of the Emperor energy, rather, it could be a tendency to be too controlling. And then when we also have the Devil card and the outcome, that could be what it's saying as well. Eight of Wands, maybe it's saying, you're trying to take on too much, and maybe that's why, you haven't had that completion, why things haven't moved forward to this point, right? Maybe why things have felt stuck, because you're just trying to take on too much, too fast. Again, a Gemini thing, right? It certainly can happen sometimes, and then of all the other energies, Aries is up there too, with wanting to move very fast. So you combine those two energies, that could certainly be what you're dealing with in that regard. Um, and then I mentioned lightening your load. When we look at the Nine of Wands in the past and how he looks a lot more happier and comfortable with the Six of Wands, right? So maybe that's the message there. Lighten your load. If it's in a relationship dynamic or work dynamic, or whatever the case may be, maybe the lesson there is to let someone else pick up the slack for a bit, Allow them to come forward, right? With the night energy, allow them to come forward and do some of the work for once, with the thought that don't come out of it from fear, which is okay. You might feel like, oh, if I don't do something, things are going to fall apart, right? Maybe that's what this is saying. You feel like if you don't make a move, things are going to go to shit, right? Maybe that's what the thought there is. And this is saying, well, nothing that's meant for you will be taken from you. So, I think you guys had a message a couple of months back too that I had titled it "Let Go or Be Dragged." So, sometimes you just have to let things play out naturally. Like I said, I know how hard that is. Trust me, I have Gemini placements, so I get it. But let's read the relationship message next. It says, love, the fulfillment of desire, and even the body's reproductive cycles have their own timetable. Some things are preordained and cannot be coerced. Everything has its season, its divine and appropriate timing, especially when it comes to matters of the heart. Remember that you will always have enough time for love, to find it, to nurture it, to give and receive it. Its clock is eternal and ticks according to the beating of your heart, in perfect rhythm. Isn't that wonderful to know? Love is always right on time. So, again, like I was saying, given that those retrograde energies, you've had Venus go back into your fifth house, which is a love house. You're going to have Mercury start retrograde in your seventh house, which is another house of relationships. That could be certainly what this is talking about as well. Talking about, when it says, where'd it go? The last part. Oh, it says, love is always right on time. So that could be what this is saying too. You might have felt like things weren't going to come around with this person. You're feeling a bit hurt, left out in the cold. This Judgment card could point to something coming back to life that you didn't think had a chance to. And this person coming in finally, and making some kind of offer to you. So that's certainly a possibility there. And then lastly, we'll read the prosperity message. It says, your prosperity is co-created by your endeavors as they occur in human-made time and the eternal efforts of your most important manifestation partner, Spirit, in a divine, measureless time. So keep doing what you're doing. Stay positive and make a commitment to remain in high vibration thoughts and feelings. If you heed the message of this card, it will seem as if you will align with your highest calling and your highest good in no time at all, like magic. So what's all the fuss about not having enough time? The prosperous life that is yours will never pass you by. So the way I see that playing out again is coming back to the Emperor energy, wanting to control everything and be on top of everything and move forward, get things done. Maybe that's left you feeling this way because you've been banging your head against the wall because the timing just wasn't right. With this in the present position, and like I said, with Jupiter coming into your seventh house, you could feel your luck shift in that regard. Maybe that's what just needed to happen there. And with your ruler retrograde for part of the month too, it's usually a time where you might want to relax a little bit and let things come to you a bit more than normal. And then just let things unfold the way that they normally would. And then it's saying in that regard with the Devil card that is a warning to say, don't be obsessive about everything. Don't try to control everything. Just let things unfold more naturally. All right, so I think we'll wrap up there, guys. If you want a personal reading with me, you could check out the About section of my channel for more info on that. You guys could also check out the Instagram page where we have a little bit more fun with tarot and astrology. But if not, I'll see you guys next month. All right, take care. Bye.